Hello everyone. It's great to see you again for another story here on Fogman Stories. In today's episode, I'll take you to a hospital. Not just any hospital, but one of the oldest in Saigon. Even today, this hospital still stands, and it's now the largest hospital in Saigon, and perhaps even in all of Vietnam. Over the years, many eerie and mysterious tales have been whispered about this place. Stories of spirits, of unexplained happenings. And today's story is one of the most chilling among them. Alright then, let's dive into the details. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next haunting tales coming soon. Chapter 1. The New Girl. My name is Lin. It was my final year of nursing school, and I was doing my internship at a big hospital in Saigon. Officially, it was called the Central Hospital, but everyone just called it Cho Ray. It's one of the oldest and largest hospitals in southern Vietnam. Getting a spot there for training felt like a big deal for us students. At first, I was excited, but after a few weeks, things started to feel off. I was assigned to night shifts in an old building called Wing A. People jokingly called it the retirement home, but really, it was where elderly patients with serious conditions stayed long-term. The building was old, quiet, and the hallways seemed to go on forever. It already felt creepy during the day. At night, it was like stepping into a ghost movie. On my very first night shift, around 11 p.m., I was filling out paperwork when I heard a scratching sound coming from the bathroom. My shift partner looked at me. I looked at her. We both got up and went to check. The yellow light flickered as we opened the door. There was no one inside, but the floor was wet, like someone had just taken a shower. On the second night, something started to feel strange. Every time I walked past the hallway labeled 5XX, I felt like someone was watching me from behind. At first, I thought it was just a doctor doing rounds. But whenever I turned around, it was just a long, empty hallway, and a chill running down my back. The next day, I ran into Ms. Dew, one of the senior nurses. She told me that this part of the hospital felt spirit sensitive. She warned me not to wander around after midnight, especially near the 5XX hallway, and definitely not around room 502. I laughed it off, went back to my notes, and told myself, maybe they've just worked too many night shifts and imagined things. But deep down, I felt uneasy. I'm not superstitious, but I also don't mess around with ghost stories. My mom used to tell me stuff about spirits and the afterlife when I was little. I guess some of it stuck. Then came my third night shift. And this time, I was alone, around 3 a.m. I was writing notes when the hallway lights started flickering. The area in front of room 502 suddenly lit up, like someone had turned on the light. Out of habit, I walked over to check. In a hospital, we often have to check lights to avoid any risk of short circuits or fires. That's when I saw it. The door to room 502 was shut tight, but the light inside was on. A pale yellow glow spilled out from under the door. I reached for the backup key, but the lock wouldn't budge. As I turned to walk away, I heard something from inside. A whisper, soft, but clear. "Lin, don't leave me." I froze. My hands went cold. My heart was pounding out of my chest. It wasn't the kind of fear that makes you scream. It was the kind that crawls slowly up your spine, like someone breathing behind you. I don't even remember how I got back to the nurse station. All I know is that I didn't sleep a single minute after that. A few days later, I asked some of the senior nurses about room 502. Ms. Wah told me, a long time ago, a patient passed away in there. Her name was Han. I think it was a heart issue. Maybe tuberculosis. She died on the night of the 30th. It was stormy, and the power went out. Ever since then, people on night shift have heard whispering, like someone who never really left. I tried to brush it off. But that night, as I sat alone, those words kept echoing in my head. Lynn, don't leave me. After that, the strange things started happening more often. Like one time, while giving out medicine, a patient in room 509 suddenly grabbed my hand and asked, "Nurse, who was that lady in white?" She had long hair. She stood there watching me for so long, but I didn't see her walk in. I felt a cold chill run through me. I was the only one wearing white on that shift. The other nurses only came in during the day. I started keeping a journal, writing down every strange thing. One night, while I was writing, the pen in my hand suddenly moved on its own, scribbling all over the page like someone else was pulling my hand. I swear I had already let go, but the pen kept moving. Just a little. Then came the night that changed everything. I was walking toward room 502 when I heard footsteps ahead. Not sneakers, not slippers, wooden clogs, the kind older women used to wear with traditional dresses. Clack, clack, clack. I rushed forward, looked around, nobody. But at the corner where two hallways met, I saw something. A shadow. The shape of a woman. Long hair. Small frame. She was facing away from me. Then slowly, she walked straight through the wall. That was the first time in my life I ran, dropped my flashlight and sprinted all the way back to the nurse station. And in that moment, I knew this place wasn't just for the living. And that was only the beginning. Chapter 2. Room 502. After the night I saw the woman in wooden clogs disappear into the wall, it was hard to stay calm. Every shift made me nervous. And the more shifts I pulled, the closer I seemed to get to that hallway. The one with room 502. That room. It felt like a faded stain at the end of the corridor. The door was always shut. The handle was dusty. The lock rusty like it hadn't been touched in years. But here's the strange thing. Every time I passed by, there was a dim light leaking from the crack under the door. This time, I decided to find out what was going on. I brought the spare keys with me and tried to unlock the door to room 502. The first key didn't work. I was sweating by the time I switched to another one. Finally, it turned. The door creaked open. A wave of musty, moldy air hit me in the face. The room was coated in dust. The walls were stained with patches of black mildew. An old hospital bed sat in the middle, rusted and silent. The window was half open, sealed by bent iron bars. There were faint marks on the walls, like someone had been clawing at them. A tattered white curtain hung crooked above the bed, full of tiny tears. The floor tiles were old and rough, with brown stains that had long since dried. I searched the room, under the bed, inside the cabinet, every corner. Then I found it, a small notebook, leather cover cracked and worn, tucked beneath the pillow. The handwriting was faded, the ink old and uneven. On the front cover it read, Tran T. My Han 1973. I took it with me and started to read. My hands were shaking. It was a patient diary. Han had written about her days in the hospital. Today my father brought me in. My mother cried. The fortune teller said there's a large mass beneath my chest. On the last page, the writing was tiny, but still clear. I waited for man for 2 years. He never came back. I still have the ring, but I think my heart is gone. I don't know why, but reading those words gave me chills. It wasn't fear, it was sadness, a quiet kind of pain. Like I'd just read someone's final goodbye, words they never got to say out loud. From that night on, I paid more attention. Nothing happened during the day. But at night, when the halls went quiet and the lights grew dim, the strange sounds returned. One night, while packing up medical supplies, I heard a soft sniffle. Someone crying, very faint, at the far end of the hallway. I followed the sound. I thought maybe a patient had woken up. But when I turned the corner, the crying stopped. All I saw was a flickering tube light overhead, and the door to room 502, slightly open. I froze. I knew I had locked that door earlier. Why was it open now? My heart started racing. I stepped closer and gently pushed the door open. The room looked the same, dusty, still, but this time, there was something on the bed, wrapped in a white cloth. I walked over and unwrapped it. It was a small silver ring, vintage style, tarnished, and inside the band was an engraving. M.H. I picked up the ring, and then a gust of cold air passed behind me. There was no breeze. The window was shut, no fan, but it felt like someone had just walked by. Then, a soft breath, a whisper. Finally, you found it? I turned around. No one. That night, I went back to my rental room, hoping to shake it off. But I had a dream. In the dream, I saw a girl in a white hospital gown, her long hair covering her face, sitting on the bed in room 502. She didn't speak at first, just raised a thin, trembling hand toward me. Then she whispered, in the same voice I'd heard that first night, "Lynn, don't leave me. I need you." I woke up the next morning, completely drained. I told myself it was just a dream. But when I reached into my uniform pocket to grab my staff ID, the silver ring was inside. I remembered clearly. I had left it on the desk. No one else had touched it. And in that moment, I knew, she's asking me for something. She, Han, needs me. But what is she asking for? And why me? Chapter 3. The reflection in the mirror. Ever since I found the ring, my mind wouldn't stop spinning with questions. Who was Tran T. My Han? Why was her spirit still lingering in that locked hospital room after all these years? What was the ring? Just a keepsake? Or something that bound her soul to this place? I'm not the superstitious type, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was waiting for me to do something. That feeling followed me through every shift. During the day, I tried to stay focused, filling out charts, checking meds, walking back and forth between beds. But at night, that feeling came back, like someone was always watching me. Especially whenever I walked past the 5XX hallway. And even more so near the turn that led to the old restroom at the very end. Every time I passed it, a chill crawled down my back, even though it was the middle of summer. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I stepped out to stretch and clear my head. I walked down the quiet hallway, then headed toward the women's restroom at the far end. It's a quiet corner. Most patients here were bedridden and rarely moved. I didn't plan to go inside, just wanted to check the lights. But as the ceiling light reflected down onto the mirror above the sink, I froze. In the mirror, right behind me, was a figure, someone in a white hospital gown, long hair falling past the waist, standing still, so close, they could have been breathing on my neck. My heart slammed into my ribs. I spun around. No one. The room was empty, silent. The ceiling light above me kept flickering, humming faintly. I slowly turned back toward the mirror. My hand shook as I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. And there it was, a faint handprint, right on the glass, as if someone had just touched it, gently. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but the cold creeping up my neck wouldn't go away. Before leaving, I glanced back at the mirror one last time. There was a crack, a tiny one, but it looked longer than before, like something beneath the surface was slowly spreading. 2 days later, I had just started my night shift when the patient in bed 504 called me over. "Miss Lin, I called you this afternoon, but you just stood there. You stared at me for a long time. Didn't say a word." I froze. That afternoon, I had been downstairs in the nurse station. I never came up to the 5XX floor. After my shift, I went to the computer and asked to check the hallway security footage. The screen showed a grainy clip from a high corner angle. And there it was, someone in white, standing at the foot of bed 504. Long hair, petite, same height as me. The figure stood still for a while, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. No one else on shift that day matched my height. And I swear, that wasn't me. The next night, I passed by the same mirror in the restroom. This time, even before stepping through the door, I could feel it, cold, not from the air conditioning, not from a draft. It was that kind of chill that rises from inside you. Spirit cold. I stood there, still, facing the mirror, and then I saw it. A face, right over my left shoulder in the reflection. Pale skin, sunken eyes, long black hair covering most of her face. That face, it was her, Han, the same face I saw in the dream. I spun around, nothing, but when I turned back to the mirror, she was still there, faint, but clear, and those eyes, they looked like they knew me. I didn't scream, I didn't run, I just stood there, frozen, feeling my heart pound like thunder inside my chest. My hand clenched the silver ring in my coat pocket. Somewhere deep inside, I felt something connecting us. Something quiet and sad. That night, I got home late. After a long shift, I collapsed into bed, and once again, I dreamed. But this time, room 502 looked different. No dust, no mold. The lights were on. The bed was clean. Han sat quietly on the bed. Her hair soft, her hospital gown white. Her eyes met mine. They looked tired, but kind. Beside her was an open journal. On the last page, in soft, slanted handwriting, it said, "If one day I'm no longer here, please return this ring to him. I don't blame anyone. I just wish to see him again, just once." She reached out and held my hand. Gently. It felt real. And then she whispered, "He was in surgery. Young, curly hair, always smiling. I don't know if he's still here." I wanted to ask more, but the dream began to fade. Before I woke up, she looked at me one last time, her eyes wet with tears. Then she disappeared. I woke up just before dawn, tired, but no longer afraid. It felt like I had been given a request. Something real, something honest. She wasn't trying to scare me. She just needed help. And if what she said was true, the man she wanted to see, he might still be somewhere in this hospital. Chapter 4. My Han's medical record. Ever since that dream, the one where Han whispered the words, "surgery department," and the ring appeared in my coat pocket the next morning, I haven't been able to rest. It felt like I was caught in a loop between the past and the present. Like Han's spirit hadn't moved on because something still needed to be said. Something unfinished. And somehow, I was the only one who could still hear her whisper. That morning, after my shift, I didn't go back to my apartment. Instead, I went straight to the hospital's records office, located on the 3rd floor of Building B. It was a place filled with thousands of old patient files, stacked inside tall metal cabinets that reached above my head. Each drawer was labeled by year, patient name, case number, and department. I asked Ms. Trang, the staff member in charge. Her brow furrowed slightly when I mentioned the name, Tran T. My Han. "That name sounds familiar," she said. "Why are you looking for it?" I made something up. Said I was researching long-term inpatients before 1975 for a study project. She nodded, pulled over a small step stool, and climbed up toward the top row. "You're lucky," she said. "We haven't digitized everything from the 1970s yet. Let's see, here's 1972 to 1974, internal medicine ward." She handed me a thick folder. My hands were shaking as I took it. Inside, among the faded pages, was a yellow document with blurred ink. Patient name, Tran T. My Han. Born, 1946. Occupation, school teacher. Admitted, March 4th, 1973. Initial diagnosis, suspected malignant mediastinal tumor, recurrent tuberculosis. I flipped through the pages slowly. The 4th sheet was a doctor's report, dated June 10th, 1973, written neatly in blue pen. Patient Tran T. My Han admitted with persistent coughing up blood and difficulty breathing. Patient shows signs of emotional distress, insomnia, occasional hallucinations, mild symptoms of depression observed. Patient has asked repeatedly about a doctor named Fan, assigned to the surgery department. I immediately underlined the name Fan in red ink in my notebook. At the end of the file was the final medical note. On November 29, 1973, patient suffered sudden cardiac arrest while awaiting third biopsy results. Resuscitation efforts unsuccessful. Patient was declared deceased at 1:32 a.m. No family members present to claim the body. Hospital followed standard procedure and transferred the remains to the morgue. No family. No one came. Only one name appeared again and again. Dr. Fan. That night, after reading her entire file, I sat alone in the nurse station. It was raining outside, soft, steady. The flickering neon lights overhead buzzed quietly. But this time, it wasn't scary. It felt like Han was sitting there beside me, telling her story, wanting not to be forgotten. I made a decision. I would find Dr. Fan. The next day, I returned to the administrative office. This time, I asked for information on former hospital staff, said I was working on a graduation project. Ms. Lam, the woman at the desk, looked at me thoughtfully and said, "You're in luck. Some of the old personnel files are still here, but you'll need a full name. We had a lot of staff back then." I handed her a slip of paper. Fan, Surgery Department 1973. She smiled. There was a Dr. Fan Quang Duc. He used to be the head of the surgery department around that time. After 1975, I think he studied abroad for a while. Came back, taught for a few years, then retired. I remember someone asked about him once, for a biography or memoir. My heart skipped. She gave me an old contact address. By some stroke of luck, Dr. Duck still lived in Saigon, in a small house in District 3. That afternoon, after my shift, I took a bus to the address. The house sat quietly at the end of a narrow alley. The white gate had faded over time, and a vine of red bougainvillea drooped gently overhead. I rang the bell. After a moment, an elderly man appeared. Thin frame, silver hair, thick glasses. His eyes paused the moment he saw me. "Yes? Who are you looking for?" I swallowed and answered respectfully. "My name is Lin. I'm an intern at the hospital. I'm doing a project on doctors from the 1970s. And I came across your name in an old patient file." He stared into my eyes for a moment. Then slowly, he opened the gate. "Come in, child. If someone still remembers, then perhaps the story should be told." The living room was small, lined with books. Old black and white photographs hung on the walls. One was a group photo of the Cho-Ray Hospital staff in 1972. I spotted him right away. Drive. Fan Quang Duc. Tall, thin, standing in the front row. And behind him, a woman in a white ao dai, holding a folder. She looked just like Han. The doctor poured tea and spoke gently. "Tran tea, my Han." She was one of the deepest regrets of my life. I sat down and placed my notebook on the table, still unsure of what to say. He poured the tea into 2 small ceramic cups. For a moment, everything was quiet. The ticking of a wall clock, the soft hum of an old ceiling fan, and the slow, thoughtful breaths of a man revisiting the past. Then he asked, "Do you have the ring?" I hesitated, then reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the small silver ring. Placed it gently on the table. He stared at it. His eyes were dim with age. But in that moment, I saw the look of someone seeing a ghost from another life. Yes, that's the one. He took a deep breath. I gave it to her in early February 1971. I had just been transferred to the surgery department. She was the nurse in charge of my first patient room. We met in the most unexpected way. Would you like to hear it? I nodded, and he began to tell me. His voice was soft, steady, but every word carried the weight of decades. Han had once been a nurse at Choray Hospital, back when it was still called Hong Bang. During an emergency operation, she assisted him, a new doctor, freshly transferred from Hue. She held the patient. He performed the surgery. The operation succeeded, and after that night, they began to talk more often. Han was quiet, thoughtful, and intelligent. Whenever they spoke, he felt at peace. That rainy season, they became close. They never had fancy dates. Just short coffee breaks near the hospital alley. Little notes tucked between patient files. I never told her I loved her, he said, smiling sadly. I just let things be. But then, war changed everything. He was suddenly transferred to the front lines, working as a field medic in central Vietnam. Before he left, he gave her the silver ring. A promise without words, he called it. 2 years later, when he returned, he heard she had passed away. We never saw each other again. I didn't ask anyone. No one brought her name up. In wartime, everyone was swept away by bigger things. And love was as small as this ring. His hands trembled as he held it. So she waited for me. Until the very end. And no one was there for her. I sat there, holding back tears. It felt like I was delivering a goodbye that had waited decades to be said. After a long silence, he looked at me and said gently, "Thank you for bringing this back. If her spirit is still out there somewhere, maybe now she has found a little peace." I nodded and promised him softly, "I believe she sees it, and I believe she's ready now." Before I left, he walked me to the gate, then handed me a small photo, faded, browned with age. This was the last picture of us, back in the hospital yard. No one took many photos back then. I've kept this one for years. But now, it should go where it truly belongs. I accepted the photo. It showed a young woman in a white dye, long hair down her back. She stood beside a young doctor. They weren't holding hands, but in their eyes was a lifetime of unspoken love. That night, for the first time in weeks, I didn't see Han in my dreams. No whispers, no face at the end of the hallway, no one behind the mirror, only silence. And the next morning, as I walked past room 502 during my shift, I noticed the door was firmly shut, but on the window ledge was a single white flower. I didn't know what kind it was, and no one knew where it came from. I stopped for a moment, bowed my head, then walked on. My heart felt lighter, as if a bit of the fog had finally lifted from that long, gray hallway. Chapter 5. The Dream Returns. After I gave the ring back to Dr. Fan, I thought that would be the end of it. When I returned to the hospital, it felt like something had finally lifted. A fog that had settled inside me was now gone. That night, I was assigned to a different ward, the emergency department. No more shifts near the old building. No more room 502. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I didn't dream about Han. I remember waking up at 5 a.m. Calm. No panic. No cold sweat. No whispering voices calling my name in the dark. The air felt clearer, less heavy. Even the hallway lights seemed to flicker less than usual. My shiftmates joked, "Hey Lin, you're looking sharp lately. No more ghost face vibes." Huh? I just smiled, quietly relieved. I thought it was over. But the following week, it returned. Not the same way. This time, it came through a dream. A very different one. It was the night of the 8th. Full moon. No rain. But the air inside the hospital felt strange. Heavy. Stifling. I wasn't on the night shift that day. But I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I finally drifted off. And I dreamed of a hallway. Not like before. There were no whispers. No shadow behind me. No Han sitting at the end of a bed. Just me, walking alone through a hallway that stretched endlessly. No lights. No windows. Yet everything was dimly lit. Like moonlight was following me. Every footstep echoed, crisp and repeating. Then I reached a corner. And there it was. A door. No number. No handle. Just a narrow opening. Just wide enough to peek through. I leaned in. Inside was a pure white room. No bed. No furniture. Only a black wooden box in the center of the floor. It had no lid, but I couldn't see what was inside. Next to the box, Han. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around them, hair covering her face. Her hospital gown was clean, but worn. I wanted to call her name, but my throat was dry. No sound came out. Then she looked up, eyes full of tears, lips barely moving. "There's still one more thing." And the dream broke. I woke up drenched in sweat. The next morning, my thoughts were a mess. What one more thing? Didn't she already have the ring? Wasn't that supposed to be the end? I tried to brush it off. Just another bad dream, probably from stress. But 3 days later, the exact same dream returned. Same hallway, same door with no handle, same white room, same black box, same Han, same 3 words. "There's still one more." I couldn't ignore it anymore. I decided to return to the records archive. Maybe, just maybe, there was something I had missed. Some detail in her file. Something forgotten. This time, I asked the head of the archive for permission to dig deeper, specifically into records from both the internal and surgery departments in 1973. Not just Han's name, but anyone connected to her case. She looked annoyed. "You're still digging through that old stuff?" "You know, someone else asked about Han too. Maybe just let her rest now." I paused. "Someone else? Who?" She shook her head. "No idea. It was a long time ago. They asked for patient death records for the last 3 days of November that year. But they weren't hospital staff." My chest tightened. Someone else was looking into this? After hours of searching, I found something tucked inside Han's file. It wasn't a medical record. It was a handwritten note, probably left by someone from the admin office. Scrawled handwriting read, "Returned belongings. 1 gray sweater. 1 notebook. 1 wooden prayer bead bracelet. 1 small metal box, contents unknown. Locked. A small metal box. Immediately, I thought of the dream. The black, square box. No lid. Never opened. Could it be that Han had left something behind? Something other than the ring? I took the note to the hospital's lost property office. The woman there blinked at me. "You're looking for what? From 1973? Are you serious?" I begged her. Told her it was for a research project on hospital history. She sighed, then led me to the old storage area. A basement behind Building A graveyard of forgotten things. We walked through rows of dusty boxes, broken shelves, rusted files, and there it was, a black metal box. No label, no tag, sitting alone on a wooden shelf. The lock was rusted. I borrowed a screwdriver and gently pried it open. Inside, a layer of faded black velvet, and in the center, a photograph and a letter, still intact. I carefully picked up the photo, brushing away the dust. It was Han, younger, sitting on a stone bench under a big almond tree. Her face turned slightly, gazing off into the distance. She looked peaceful, and just a little sad. The photo was a little off-center, probably taken in a hurry. But it was strangely beautiful. In the background stood a man. Faint, his face unclear, but I knew it had to be Dr. Duck. I unfolded the letter. The ink had faded, the paper yellowed, but the handwriting was still legible. "To you, I never blamed you, not once. The day you left, I knew I shouldn't wait. But hearts don't always listen to reason. I kept the ring as a memory, not as a promise, just something to hold on to feel a little lighter every time I looked at it. Today, I feel weaker. Maybe I don't have much time left. If someday I'm gone, and someone happens to find this letter, please tell him, I hold no anger, no regrets. If I had to choose again, I would still choose to know him, even just for a short while." By the time I reached the end, my eyes were stinging. A letter never sent, a goodbye buried for decades. This must have been the one more thing she couldn't let go of. That night, I brought the letter home, slipped it into my notebook. I planned to return it to Dr. Duck the next day, but something in me said, hold onto it a little longer. Like Han was waiting to say goodbye through me. And she did. That night, I dreamed again, but not of hallways, not of boxes, not of the hospital. I saw a small, warm room, a soft yellow light spilling in through the window. Han sat at a desk, wearing a gray sweater, hair tied back neatly. She was writing a letter. Each stroke of her pen faded gently into the air, but I could understand every word. On the table was the silver ring. She looked up, and for the first time, she smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. "I can go now." The room faded. The light dimmed, and silence returned, as if no one had ever been there at all. I woke up in the middle of the night. No panic, no cold sweat, just peace, like I had just walked someone to the train station. Someone who had waited far too long to leave. That morning, I visited Dr. Duck. I gave him the photo and the letter. He read them slowly, quietly, then held the letter to his chest. His tears fell silently. You're the late gift God sent to Han," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Since then, I've never dreamed of Han again. But sometimes, When I walk past the hallway in Building A, especially on nights with a full moon, I feel it, someone watching, just outside room 502. Not heavy, not cold, just a quiet gaze, saying goodbye. Chapter 6. Returning what was left behind. I thought it was over. After Han appeared in my dream, smiling softly before fading away. After I gave the letter and photograph to Dr. Fan, I felt lighter. For days, I slept soundly. No more strange dreams. No more shadows in the mirror. No more whispers in the dark. But one afternoon, as I was walking past the old hospital wing to submit my internship evaluation form to the admin office, I noticed something near the bottom of the back stairwell. Something small, lying quietly on the dusty floor. A hair clip, an old ivory-colored one. The kind women used to wear decades ago. Made of plastic, now yellowed with age, still clinging to it. A few long, black strands of hair, thin as thread. I don't know why, but the moment I saw it, my heart skipped a beat. I bent down and picked it up. Right then, a cold breeze rushed through the hallway. Even though outside, the sun was blazing. That night, I had another dream, but it wasn't foggy or strange like before. It was vivid, clear as a scene from a film. I saw Han, sitting at an old desk. The ivory clip held her hair neatly in place. She looked younger, smiling, writing something in a notebook. Then, she gently placed the clip on the table, stood up, and walked out of the room. The next scene, a rainy day in the hospital hallway. Han walked down the corridor, her hair soaked from the rain. A strong gust of wind blew past. The hair clip slipped from her coat pocket, fell down the stairwell. No one saw, no one picked it up, and Han never looked back. Then the dream faded. I woke up, still clutching the clip in my hand. I didn't remember grabbing it, but there it was, as if it were a message. Something that had been waiting. I knew then, it didn't belong to me. It wasn't something to hand to Dr. Fan, and it didn't belong in hospital storage. It had to be returned to where it came from. I took a day off from my shift, rode my bike to a small temple tucked inside an alley on La Quang Din Street. It was a quiet place, where people often came to pray for wandering souls with no family left behind. The head monk, a gentle man in his 50s with a kind face, listened quietly as I told the story. He gave a soft nod. "She hasn't left," he said. "She's still holding onto a piece of who she was. That hair clip, it's the last part of her. And you saw it. So now, you can be the one to return it for her." That evening, under the temple roof, we held a small ceremony. There were candles, soft chanting, and the gentle curl of incense smoke. I sat beside the altar, holding the clip in both hands. When the monk rang the bell 3 times, I stepped forward, placed the clip onto a small tray of flowers, bowed deeply, and let go. In that exact moment, a soft breeze passed by. Even though the air was still, even though the room was sealed, a delicate scent rose. Not incense, not sandalwood, but something else. The smell of old shampoo, of bouquet, the kind our mothers used long ago. Then I heard the monk's voice, chanting, For the spirit of Tran Ti My Han, if there is anything left undone, may it now be released. May you walk peacefully onward? Suddenly, tears streamed down my face. I didn't know why, only that, in that moment, my heart felt light, free. A few days later, I returned to the hospital. Everything looked normal, but as I walked past the old wing, just in front of room 502, I saw something, hanging gently from the rusty iron doorknob. A small jasmine flower. No one knew who had placed it there, but its scent was strangely sweet. For the first time, I reached out and touched the door. It wasn't cold anymore. It was just a door, plain and still. Chapter 7. The Night Without Whispers. After that night at the little temple, everything truly went quiet. But it wasn't the quiet of an ordinary night shift. It was the kind of stillness that comes after something heavy has finally been lifted. My next shift happened to be back in the old wing. When I first saw my name on the assignment sheet, I felt a slight unease. But as I walked down the familiar hallway, I could feel it. Something had changed. The hallway was still long. The walls still stained with years of wear. But the lights were brighter now. They didn't flicker anymore, and the cold gusts that used to appear out of nowhere were gone. Most of all, there were no more whispers. I walked past room 502. The old iron doorknob was still rusted, still locked, but it no longer felt cold to the touch. I rested my hand on it, gave it a gentle turn. Still locked, but now, it felt like a room that had already said goodbye. Later that night, a senior doctor on duty told me, "Strange, isn't it? Lately, the staff working in Wing A haven't reported anything weird. It's been easier." I just smiled, said nothing, but I knew the one who had waited in that room had finally gone. Weeks passed. Work returned to its usual pace. I was busy preparing my final report, studying for graduation exams, and applying for the second internship rotation in another province. But one habit remained. Every time I walked near Wing A, even if I was just getting a drink or picking up documents, I'd glance toward the end of the hallway, just to make sure the door was still closed. No one was standing there. No one calling my name in the dark. One late afternoon, near Lunar New Year, I ran into Dr. Fan in the hospital courtyard. He looked older than the last time we met, but his eyes, they seemed lighter. "How have you been?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm well, thanks to you, and thanks to Han." He smiled, didn't say a word. We sat quietly on a stone bench, watching an ambulance pass by. No one brought up the past, but in that silence, I knew he understood. And if Han was still watching from somewhere, I think she smiled too. On my final night before the internship ended, I asked to take one last shift in Wing A, as a way to say goodbye. It was a quiet night. Patients slept early. No emergencies. Around 3 a.m., I stepped out into the hallway with a cup of hot tea. Leaning on the second floor balcony, I looked down into the empty courtyard. There was no moon, but the air was cool. The night calm and clear. As I turned to go back inside, my eyes, without thinking, drifted to the far end of the hallway, to room 502. And for the first time, I saw the door slightly open. I held my breath, walked toward it. No one was there, just the soft, chilly breeze of the night passing through the open crack. I reached out, gently pushed the door closed. And this time, I wasn't afraid. It was just a room. An old, empty room. I turned and walked away, my heart as light as air. And just as I rounded the corner, I swear I smelled jasmine. Faint, gentle, like someone was saying goodbye. One last time. Some say ghosts linger because they cannot let go. Others believe it's the living who hold on too tightly. But I think, sometimes, it's neither. Sometimes, a soul simply waits for a kind hand, a voice willing to listen, a stranger brave enough to carry their final message. And once that message is delivered, silence returns. Not an empty silence, but a peaceful one. I don't hear the whispers anymore, but I'll never forget them. The Last Whisper, Fogman Stories.